Hi, I am Dr. Jacob Lauritzen, and this is Read, Write, and Cite, the show where I teach you how to read, write, and cite for your college classes. In this video, I'm going to talk about, semicolons, right? It's something that it's so easy to get confused, and I'll be honest right up front, you don't need them, like, at all. So, let's get started. Okay. The rules for semicolons are incredibly simple, but where they get confusing is people think that a semicolon is the same as a colon. Maybe because the name, but they have completely different purposes. They look similar, but that's kind of where the similarities end. Basically, colons, you're only going to use them for lists, right? Semicolons have nothing to do with lists. Zero. Not really. Anyway, okay, so basically, here's what it comes down to. You use a semicolon kind of in place of a period. Yeah, so like totally different from how you use a colon, right? You don't use a period to start a list. That would be ridiculous. And you don't use a semicolon to start a list either, because it's just not what it's used for. In fact, let me give you more or less a textbook definition, right? A semicolon is for connecting two independent clauses. What's an independent clause? Well, I've got a video that talks about it, but let me recap real fast right here. An independent clause is basically everything that could be a sentence by itself. It's got a subject, a verb, a complete thought, boom. If it can be a sentence by itself, a simple sentence, it's an independent clause. And if you have another part of the sentence that's also subject, verb, complete thought, you can connect them with a semicolon in the middle. That's it. That's kind of what you can use the semicolon for. And that's almost the only reason. So why would you do that? Because that seems kind of silly. Because it really is just replacing a period, right? Because if you had this would be a complete sentence and this would be a complete sentence, you stick a period in the middle, right? That's where a semicolon would go. Well, think of it like this. If you have two separate sentences and you think, man, these ideas really go together and I want the reader to kind of see them as the same thing, that's when you'd use a semicolon. So if you start an idea here and it's a different sentence than the second idea, but you kind of want to connect them, semicolon right in the middle. There it is. That's what you can use it for. Now, what a lot of people like to do is you may use some transition word to kind of connect those two thoughts. In that case, independent clause, semicolon, and then you might have a transition word. Now that transition word could be like therefore or something like that. That one word transition word, we have a fancy word for it and we call it an adverbial clause. It's like a one word clause, group of words if you will, but it's one word long and it's just for transition. But it doesn't fit with this group of words, which is a sentence by itself, and it doesn't fit with this group of words, which is by itself. It's kind of in the middle. And so we still separate it with our punctuation. So you got your independent clause, semicolon. You got this word in the middle, like therefore. Then you put a comma to separate it from what comes next, which is another independent clause, which could be a complete thought by itself. So your punctuation is going to look something like this. You've got sentence, semicolon, the one word, comma, the rest of the words, and period at the end to finish the thing off. That's kind of how you can use semicolons. So let me come up with some examples, right? Okay, let's just make up some sentences. So here we go. The man went to the park. Cool. Easy sentence, right? The man went to the park. He ate a sandwich for lunch. All right, so we've got two really simple ideas. The man went to the park. He ate a sandwich for lunch. You could connect them with a semicolon. If you want to make sure that your reader kind of gets those ideas together, semicolon can do that, right? That's kind of what it comes down to, and that's what it looks like. So if you've been using a semicolon for anything other than like emoji or emoticon, and you're starting to put it places and you're like, oh, this is a good transition and this is good and this is good, and I'm starting to list, back up, think about what you're actually doing. Is this complete? Is this complete? Do you kind of want those two complete things together? You can do it with a semicolon. Now, this is what I tell people the first time it deals with semicolons. You don't need to use them. That is a completely optional concept, right? It's not something that shows up all the time, and you can completely avoid it. So I do tell students you can avoid using semicolons, period. It is possible to never use them. Because this rule is so specific and so kind of obscure, you really don't have to use them. Now, I said earlier, they don't show up in lists, right? They don't show up in lists that average people use, right? Normal people will never write the kind of lists. Because what you could do is you can have a list that has a list of lists. You know, like you've got list 3 things, another 3 things, and another 3 things, and they need to separate. So you've got a list of 3 things. You got your commas here, commas here, commas here. You might have a semicolon to separate it. That only shows up in like really strange indexes, not really in sentences. So again, you don't really need to worry about that. Again, that's it. Semicolons are pretty simple and straightforward. So I hope this clears things up. Basically, if you're using a semicolon any other way, stop it. That's not what it's for. Backtrack. There might be an easier, more effective way. That's not going to get your papers marked wrong. So I hope this video was helpful. Again, I am Dr. Jacob Lauritzen. This has been Read, Write, and Cite. If you found this useful, please subscribe. If you think you know someone who would benefit from it, please share it with them. I appreciate you commenting in the forums below. That's where I got the idea to dig into punctuation and writing some more. So hopefully we'll have some more good videos coming soon like this one. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.